What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, we've got another article from the Associated Press. This is another one of those Kilmar Abrego Garcia stories that the corporate press is trying to bring to you to tug on your heartstrings to make you think that what Donald Trump is doing is unlawful. He's not supposed to be doing this, folks. They're insane on this one, as a matter of fact. In my opinion, that's just an opinion statement. But it's quite insane if you ask me, because once again, folks, they're trying to build a narrative rather than tell you a story about reality. Check this out, y'all. Lawyer says ICE deports immigrant mother of an infant and 3 children who are U.S. citizens. Okay, so that might make you think, oh, well, Donald Trump is deporting citizens. Well, you know what? When you have children with parents that are in the country illegally, what do you do about that when you deport that parent? Do you separate them? No, that would be inhumane. You send those children with their parents, for crying out loud. And in doing so, you deport citizens of this country who, Donald Trump is trying to remedy that currently, as a matter of fact, with his birthright citizenship, trying to overturn that with his birthright citizenship executive order, right? Trying to get rid of that. Right, because these people are abusing the system. They come into this country illegally, undetected in a lot of situations, have children to anchor themselves to this country. That is trying to cheat the system, to gain an advantage over the system, trying to do an in-run around our system, right? Because of a loophole in the Constitution, how it was writ back in the day, because nobody expected people to come into our country illegally and have a child just for the purpose of anchoring themselves to this nation. Nobody expected that. They didn't even think that people would do that, using a child as a device to manipulate the laws of another country. That is what they are doing here, and that is how Donald Trump sees birthright citizenship. But let's get into this because, oh, God. Yeah, it's a crazy story, y'all. Check this out. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents have, in recent days, deported the Cuban-born mother of a 1-year-old girl, separating them indefinitely, and 3 children, ages 2, 4, and 7, who are U.S. citizens, along with their Honduran-born mothers, their lawyers said Saturday. The 3 cases raise questions about who is being deported and why, and come amid a battle in federal courts over whether President Donald Trump's immigration crackdown has gone too far and too quickly at the expense of fundamental rights. Now, what that is meant to do is, they're not blatantly saying this outright, but what that is meant to do is that it's meant to make you think that their rights are being revoked somehow, when they're absolutely not. Separating children indefinitely. It's insane, y'all. Lawyers in the cases describe how the women were arrested at routine check-ins at ICE offices, given virtually no opportunity to speak with lawyers to their family members, and then deported within 3 days or less. That is all based upon the fact that these women had lawyers in the first place. A lot of these immigrants don't. As a matter of fact, they don't have no court cases. They just came into the country illegally and had children. And when they get caught by ICE, they get removed. Just outright. There is no court case for that. None whatsoever. They don't have, or they didn't lose any fundamental rights because they never had them in the first place. Criminal aliens do not have the same rights under our Constitution as we do. We are U.S. citizens. They are not. They are citizens of another country. But the corporate press is trying to make you believe that they're supposed to get all these due process rights the same as you would. As if they got caught committing a crime like theft or something, and they have to go to court to prove their innocence. That's just not how our law works, by the way. But that's the narrative that they're trying to build here. The American Civil Liberties Union, National Immigration Project, and several other allied groups said in a statement that the way ICE deported children who are U.S. citizens and their mothers is a shocking, although increasingly common, abuse of power. It's absolutely not. That is a lie. That is another tug on your heartstrings to make you think that what Donald Trump is doing is unlawful and illegal, right? When it's absolutely not. If you look up all the U.S. code around immigration, how that process works, there's nothing about what Donald Trump is doing that's illegal at all. Gracie Willis of the National Immigration Project said the mothers are at the very least did not have a fair opportunity to decide whether they wanted the children to stay in the United States. Okay, so these people are insane. This is where I get the insanity part from. Do you think we're going to separate the family? Really? Even if the mother wanted the kids to stay here, they would immediately be put into foster care. Why would you want that for your children, for crying out loud? Anybody who is willing to separate themselves from their children, I don't find to be very good people, in other words. Now, you might make the argument that, well, the situation they're going back to into their home country will put their children at risk. Well, then you make some sort of asylum claim, right? But outside of that, they should have done the procedure instead of doing an end run around the procedure. In other words, they should have called and requested a visa, requested citizenship. They should have came in the proper way in the first place instead of breaking our laws to come in. This is squarely on the parent, right? All of this is their fault. It's not the fault of Donald Trump. It's not the fault of our laws. It is their fault for trying to game the system and do an end run around our laws and try to anchor themselves illegally to the country, all because of miswordage in the Constitution. It's insane. It really is. And these people are insane for thinking that we're going to separate families. That's a nutshell. The 4-year-old who is suffering from a rare form of cancer, and you see what they're doing here? And the 7-year-old were deported to Honduras within a day of being arrested with their mother, Willis said. What do you expect when the mother is in the country illegally and she gets arrested to be deported? What do you think we're going to do with the kids? I mean, seriously, like, these people just don't think about what they type. In the case involving the 2-year-old, a federal judge in Louisiana raised questions about the deportation of the girl, saying the government did not prove it had done so properly. Yeah, but once again, that doesn't prove that anything was done improper, by the way, because there is no legal recourse for most of these people. I'm sorry, that's just how the law is written. Lawyers for the girl's father insisted he wanted the girl to remain with him in the U.S., while ICE contended the mother had wanted the girl to be deported with her to Honduras, claims that weren't fully vetted by U.S. District Judge Terry Doughty. Doughty? Yeah, Doughty, something like that, in Louisiana. Well, you know, this is based upon the fact that the husband or whatever, the girl's father, is a U.S. citizen, but he's not. He's also in the country illegally. Doughty, in a Friday order, scheduled a hearing on May 16th in the interest of dispelling our strong suspicion that the government just deported a U.S. citizen with no meaningful process, he wrote. The Honduran-born mother, who is pregnant, was arrested Tuesday on an outstanding deportation order, along with the 2-year-old girl and her 11-year-old Honduran-born sister, during a check-in appointment at an ICE office in New Orleans, lawyers said. The family lived in Baton Rouge. Doughty called the government lawyers on Friday to speak with the woman while she was in the air on a deportation plane, only to be called back less than an hour later and told that a conversation was impossible because she had just been released into Honduras. In a Thursday court filing, lawyers for the father said ICE indicated that it was holding the 2-year-old girl in a bid to induce the father to turn himself in. His lawyers did not describe his immigration status, but said he has legally delegated the custody of his daughters to his sister-in-law, a U.S. citizen who also lives in Baton Rouge. Now, that is the only reason they kept that girl. Now, the corporate press saying that the ICE kept her to entice the father to turn himself in speaks to the father's immigration status right there. The fact that he's, caught up with ICE at all means that he's in the country illegally, right? So he delegated the responsibility to his sister-in-law. Well, that girl should go to the sister-in-law, and probably will, but they're not going to tell you that. As a matter of fact, they're trying to drum this up like it's a bad thing. This is very, very normal, right? Once again, when you try to game the system, you try to come into this country illegally, and you involve your children, you're kind of a scumbag, in my opinion. But, why would you play games like that in the first place? I just don't understand these people, and I don't understand the corporate press taking up for these criminals, these very, very bad actors who are, once again, trying to game the system, trying to cheat code through their way through life, right? Doing an end run around the Constitution. It just doesn't make any sense to me, and it aggravates me to hell that the corporate press cannot be fair in their reporting at all. They're trying to get on the side of the criminals. That's all they're doing here. It's just aggravating as hell. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think. That's all I got. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.